think anytime you have a field, whether it's large or small, you're going to have innovators within that field. And Peter White was one of the people early on that realized the potential that botanic gardens can play in conservation. Botanic gardens had long been a resource of understanding the botanical wonders of the world, but really taking steps to conserve those resources was a new effort. And so what Peter did is he actually started the idea of developing a conservation garden, seed banking, ecological restoration, promotion of endangered species. But then he went past that and started talking about our gardening practices and how we can substitute native and non-invasive plants for invasive plants that are traditionally used in gardening. How we can adopt practices that are resource conservation oriented. How we can garden with nature in mind, so we promote pollinators and seed dispersers and other wildlife in our garden spaces. And then really beginning an education program where we promoted a lot of the information you need for professionals and amateurs to do better conservation out in the wild, and then also give better information so that each of us can develop a healthy relationship within the rest of nature.
You know, Peter started in 1986, and this building you see behind me wasn't even here then. He really defined the vision and the purpose of this garden and then began to implement changes that fit with that vision. So for example, sustainability is a strong conservation ethic that we have here. The garden becoming a founding member of the Center for Plant Conservation, that was his doing. And this new education center is a LEED Platinum building. So Peter made sure that the garden walked the talk in everything that we did.
And it was certainly a primary goal of Peter's to create this kind of facility that had North Carolina vernacular, but at the same time was outfitted with all these incredible sustainable features.
He grew this garden to what it is today, and he did it on a half-time basis. He was still a professor in the biology department at UNC.
Peter's work, starting with his interest in disturbance, moved from there into interest in species richness, in diversity of communities across landscapes, and to an understanding of the natural history of individual species that enabled them to live within the communities that they inhabited. How they live in the context of the landscape, how they live in the context of the community they inhabit, and what are the key factors of their life histories that are important in terms of determining how we can best conserve them.
Peter was one of the innovators that early on recognized that botanic gardens needed to change. There were elements of the conservation programs sprinkled throughout the nation's botanic gardens. Peter brought them all together in a focused way to make a huge difference. His leadership in turning a great botanic garden into a great conservation botanic garden and serving as a role model for all of us is why we're honoring him with the 2015 John C. Pritzlaff Conservation Award.